good day there, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Midas Letter RAW. And today's a Monday edition. How about that? July 26, 2021. And we've got a great show for you. Again, my trusty friend and sidekick, Edward Molesky, is still missing in action, believed to be somewhere on the eastern coast of Canada, overindulging in lobster and Newfie Screech, perhaps. Anyways, he'll be back at some point, middle of August. It is the summer doldrums, and so let's not deny a man his leisure time on the coastal areas of Canada. Today, we're going to talk a lot about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies again. I'm obviously monitoring the momentum among developed countries' governments that points towards the total ban of cryptocurrencies as units of monetary trade. And you might be surprised at where some of this information is popping up. Cryptocurrencies are obviously speculative in nature. I don't own any, nor have I ever. And my essential position is that I caution anybody from investing in cryptocurrencies pending clarity on how governments are going to treat them once they've rolled out their own central bank digital currencies. And yes, that will be a dog's breakfast. And yes, those are basically digital versions of fiat currencies. But if you ask me, most cryptocurrencies are fiat currencies as well. And that is evident in the fact that Bitcoin, for example, has had 3 or 4 major forks so far. So the available pool of various flavors of Bitcoin alone has quadrupled. And then the Federal Reserve, is tracking what it refers to as 8,000 cryptocurrencies. 8,000! 8,000! So to say that cryptocurrencies or Bitcoin or any single flavor of cryptocurrency is non-dilutive is misleading and inaccurate. And so all of the young people who think that they're actually going to get away with programming their own money and not have to participate in the taxation, banking, and or other elements of the society in which they have been born are utterly delusional. And kids, yeah, the Bitcoin technicals are looking good and back above 35,000, but oh, the tsunami that's going to come and tan your little backsides, and I hope that doesn't sound too condescending, but I'm sick of hearing, okay, boomer, you just don't understand cryptocurrencies. And to which I will say, okay, Gen Zer, I don't think you understand money. Anyways, we'll leave it there. I know I don't have any fans among the Gen Zers. I don't mind. If you're enjoying the show, subscribe to Midas Letter on YouTube so you stay up to date on everything investment. I have great guests today. I have Jim Albertelli, who is now the CEO of Voxtur Analytics Inc., VXTR on the TSX Venture, VXTRF in the United States. And Jim is going to give us an update on how the integrations of all of the aspects of the Voxtur real estate ecosystem are progressing. And I have to disclose, of course, that I'm still a shareholder. I bought $100,000 worth in the, or was it 100,000 shares? No, it was $100,000 worth in the $35 million round. That is now free trading, and no, I haven't sold any. I also have 1 million options in partnership with some people in a marketing company whose marketing program, by the way, is just getting started now. So we hope to see that result in a trend in the opposite direction. It's been treading water down here in the 60s to 80s pretty much since they completed their $35 million private placement. Wayne Cockburn joins me. He's from Pathway Health, one of the largest providers of out-of-hospital pain management services in Canada. Pathway trades on the TSX Venture under symbol PHC. If you like the show, you'll love our website. Visit us at www.midasletter.com for interviews with key CEOs, cannabis news, and to subscribe to our newsletter. So there were 4 things that, 4 news items that I wanted to talk about, all indicative of a increasing scrutiny of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies more broadly among the G7 governments. First, there's this opinion piece that was in thehill.com, a relatively conservative right-wing U.S. government watchdog, so to speak. And this is an opinion piece by Robert A. Manning, who is formerly a senior fellow of the Brent Scowcroft Center for Strategy and Security at the Atlantic Council, whatever that is. But he was also a senior counselor to the Undersecretary of State for Global Affairs from 2001 to 2004, member of the U.S. Department of State for Policy Planning from 2004 to 2008, and he was on the National Intelligence Council Strategic Futures Group from 2008 to 2012. So the gentleman is obviously connected in government, yet this is an opinion piece. But he makes a couple of far-reaching statements that really need to be demonstrated or backed up by data. But one statement he makes, he says, if China were on board, the possibility of a UN Security Council resolution to ban cryptocurrencies could be in the cards. Now, that would be a foundation for taking the issue to the group of 20 to make it a global norm. That would certainly have a downward pressure effect on the price of Bitcoin, but that's the trend, and that's what I think anybody who's investing in cryptocurrencies has to be focused on. The Guardian published a piece whose title was "Cryptocurrencies Could Lead to Limitless Losses for the UK Government as a Result of Businesses That Accept Payments in Untaxed and Untraceable Cryptocurrencies." So that's interesting. So the article basically quotes a woman at a insolvency firm, Begbie's Trainer. Julie Palmer says the growing popularity of cryptocurrency payments would make it harder for administrators in charge of winding down a business after it fails to track where money has come from, whether owners, staff, or directors are stripping funds out of the business legally. So not really any indication of a government move towards cryptocurrency restriction. However, the EU announced that it is going to tighten rules on crypto asset transfers by forcing individuals who accept payments in transfers to identify the owners of the crypto wallets from which and to which cryptocurrencies flow if they are using a cryptocurrency for a transaction, essentially undermining the entire privacy element of the cryptocurrency value proposition. And if the euro does that, and England is concerned about limitless losses, and China has already banned it and might be considering a Security Council resolution at the United Nations to ban it, and the United States is still sort of looking around going, I can tell you one thing. The United States is interested in allowing cryptocurrency to continue because it undermines the investment in gold, which is the primary external asset to which the U.S. dollar is compared. And if gold takes off in price, the perception broadly is that the U.S. dollar is in trouble. And so that relationship has been somewhat damaged by the advent of cryptocurrency, where this new generation of alternative monetarists who would normally gravitate towards gold are gravitating towards cryptocurrencies. So that serves the interests of the U.S. dollar interest behind the U.S. financial system. However, cryptocurrencies, as everybody knows, are not backed by any sovereign treasury, and so if cryptocurrencies go bust, as several of them have, there is no recourse to recover any of the investment lost. And so, again, cryptocurrencies are not currencies. They are speculative assets, and they are a bubble. So expect that bubble to blow up a lot more than it has from 60,000 down to 30,000. There's a little bit of a rally going on right now. That's to be expected. But there's only more bad news coming for cryptos and probably not much good news. U.S. and G7 central banks are preparing to roll out their own version of a digital bank, central bank digital currency, blah, 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 Mondays. And so those are going to be official cryptocurrencies, and I will bet dollars to donuts that incrementally cryptocurrencies not associated with a sovereign government will be banned by all countries in the developed world, rendering it pretty much useless. And not just useless, but toxic in any portfolio. So even the big investors, Scott Minerd at Guggenheim, for example, who proclaimed that he expects crypto to hit, or Bitcoin to hit $400,000, have suddenly gone quiet with this new sort of uncertainty that was more or less instigated by China's ban on cryptocurrency. They've now banned mining as well. All that mining is just moving to other jurisdictions, which will put pressure on available power resources. And the power consumption of mining is not insignificant, as Elon Musk now knows. So, yeah, again, cryptocurrencies are not long for this world. In the world of investment, however, some companies that are redefining legacy analog systems are creating new ways of doing things, and Voxtur Analytics is doing it with the real estate ecosystem. Full disclosure, I own some stock, but here's Jim Albertelli, CEO, to tell us the latest developments at Voxtur. Next up, Jim Albertelli, CEO of Voxtur Analytics, trading on the TSX Venture under the symbol VXTR and trading in the United States under the symbol VXTRF. Jim, welcome back.
Good to see you. Good to be back.
Jim, let's start with a quick overview. On July 18th, 8 Capital came out with a buy recommendation, putting a target price of over $1. What's driving 8 Capital's sort of support of the company?
You took a look and go back to some of the earlier things that we have discussed. Really, the ANOW acquisition and its place in the market is driving a lot of that valuation. When you're looking at what the projected forward earnings are, the ANOW acquisition in conjunction with the Benutech acquisition, which was announced, and we believe will close very quickly. Both of those are two key revenue drivers that are lifting 8 Capital's recommendation.
And how is the ANOW integration going in terms of their business onto your business? I think, can you explain that in the context of how that's a template for the integration of other future acquisitions and why it's so accretive to the company?
Yeah, sure. So remember our core thesis when we were looking at acquisitions essentially was the prop tech space, software as a service, and accretive to our offering. As you may recall, if you're an investor and you've been an investor with Voxtur, you know that we acquired Plurosity. Plurosity had a digitized workflow. In adding ANOW to Plurosity, it was really complementary in that we took the end-to-end encryption of ANOW, we paired it with Plurosity's workflow engine, and ultimately we added the elegant AI that ANOW brings to deliver that all the way to the consumer. So when you're thinking about technologies, we spotted places where we thought we could improve very quickly through acquisition, which we have done. We assimilated those teams together already in very short order, under 60 days, with a very thoughtful approach to it. And then we took ANOW. Remember, ANOW was a $30 million acquisition. And if you looked at it from the outside, you might have said, hey, $2 million in revenue and a couple $100,000 US in EBITDA. What are these guys thinking to give it such a heady valuation? But ultimately, by putting the 1 + 1 together, we really get an exponential growth. We've already seen that with some of the clients. We have a number of contracts already pending. So really the beauty of it was the ability to see where we were from a technology standpoint, identify those key points where we can improve, identify someone that we can improve with, but put those two together to proliferate very quickly. And that's what we're in the process of doing. We expect that some announcements will be forthcoming in the next few weeks that'll further buttress that thesis. But really, again, it was prop tech. It was in our core wheelhouse evaluation. It was accretive insofar as it addressed several places where we could be to improve to be the platform in North America for valuation. And that's what we're on the pathway to do.
Can you walk us through the entire value chain of a real estate transaction on the Voxtur platform, just so that the audience and I can appreciate better the fullness of the experience and what is in the Voxtur platform and what's not in the Voxtur platform in terms of the whole real estate ecosystem transactional processing?
So just talking about origination, apart from where our technology plays in mortgage servicing, or ultimately in the capital market space, if we just focus on the front end, what we can see really is that the Voxtur suite of services plug right into the point of sale. So if you think about a large point of sale business, maybe think about one that has recently gone public at over $1 billion valuation. That's Blend. Voxtur provides a lot of the key components so that a loan can be offered. And as an individual enters the sales funnel, we can pull in any of the data elements. We can provide the credit, or credit can be provided individually, but it can come through our hub. We provide the valuation, one of the most key components when you're doing real estate backed lending. So ultimately, that order rides on our pipe. It may ride to an AMC that's affiliated with Voxtur. It may not. But ultimately, we manage that entire process all the way to the consumer. So Voxtur has that consumer touch all the way to the lending touch. So whether it's an appraisal, or it's a broker's price opinion, or it's an automated valuation methodology, in other words, all human to all man-made, or some combination of those, Voxtur manages all of those components. So that part of the value chain is Voxtur. Secondarily, if you want an instant title opinion at the front end of the point of sale, Voxtur can provide the instant title decision by looking at the lien paradigm, by checking MERS and credit. We pull all of that together, and we can provide an instant title decision at the front end. As the transaction progresses and the lender approvals come in and the title information comes back, Voxtur has the ability to provide a traditional title insurance product or an alternative to title insurance product, often at 20 to 80% less than traditional title insurance. Really looking at this point now is the key components of that loan. You have their verification of income and employment. You have a Voxtur component, which is the valuation of the underlying real estate, which we provide, we manage, we maintain. We pay the vendors on that platform. So end-to-end encrypted valuation, that's us. And the title piece, you're going to make sure that you're going to put on the property as the new lienor, as the new bank, is going to be in first position or second position or third position as it happens. And Voxtur verifies all those components. Now, Voxtur can also take that consumer and that lender, marry the two, execute the documents, and then electronically file them in most jurisdictions. And so the Voxtur chain at the origination are very essential key components. And there are things, if you've read the book Good to Great, things where we're really a hedgehog, the alternative to title insurance, the valuation and then valuation platform, things that we're the best at, and we're right there at the point of sale in the mortgage space. A lot to unpack, because we can also provide those services to the mortgage servicers. So, for example, the mortgage servicers oftentimes mark their book to market. Again, they can ride our valuation rails. We can provide the ADM, the BPO, or the full appraisal. If consumers go in and out of compliance, meaning they get behind, they go through a foreclosure process. We have technology to manage the foreclosure process. We also have technology, if they modify their loan, to provide an instant modification decision and to give them title insurance or an alternative to title insurance wrapper in the mortgage servicing space, as well as provide all of the tax analytics underpinning it. So, speaking of the tax, I think, that is a great growth center. If you looked at the 8 capital analysis, what they didn't give us any credit for, but they did acknowledge was out there. And as we build a longer relationship with the analysts, they'll see this too, is the ability to take our RPTA, a real property tax analytics that we've developed over the years, and take that and really create a consumer-focused analytic, basically allowing consumers in the U.S. and Canada to know if their taxes are too high, too low, and by how much. We've been talking about that. The Benutech acquisition that's in progress gives us a complete data file to support doing that throughout the U.S. We plan to launch that in Q4, and that's 140 million properties, and that's a direct-to-consumer, accretive, but organic development from Voxtur. So lots of tremendous growth opportunity. And then on its current underpinnings, where we play in the value chain, back to the real estate transaction, currently is really assimilating the information, providing some key components, like I said, valuation and title, and then having the ability to actually bring the consumer and the bank together, to provide that closing experience and deliver those documents electronically back to the counterparties. So I know that's a high level, trying to give you some low level so you can really see in the weeds what we're doing and how we're executing, but that's the Voxtur value proposition.
Sure. Well, that's very helpful. So the revenue that you reported in the last quarter was really representative of only 1 month of the entire merged company at this point. Obviously, ex of Benutech, because that's not complete yet, but only included 1 month of ANOW, and that looked like 87 million a year run rate year over year. Or rather 183% increase in revenue year over year. Is that rate of increase going to continue, in your opinion?
Yeah. So here, the long and the short of it, do I expect that rate of increase to continue from 21 to 22 to 23? Yeah, absolutely. I expect it to continue. Do I think it's going to be 183% compounded quarter over quarter, or as Q1 was to run rate of last year? No, I don't. I really think that that we'll level off in Q2 and Q3 because we have a number of clients and contracts that we are executing upon now. And I expect the growth to really return in Q4. Remember, we also have a fourth leg of the stool, which has been dormant. We thought it would fall off sooner. It looks as if, August 1st, the default moratorium stops. I think you're going to see a pickup then of some of our default related technology, our bankruptcy environment, as well as our foreclosure management technology. So those two components will pick up really in Q4, but it's going to be Q1, Q2 where it hits in full strength. The deals we're working on now around valuation, it just takes time to put the technology inside some of our partners behind their firewall, and that is ongoing currently. So really look to see the revenue to be flat through Q2, Q3, up substantially Q4. But then if you take 21 as a whole and look to 2022, you should expect another major transformation, and I should be able to give you a lot more color here in the next 4 to 5 weeks on that.
You bet. All right, that's a great update, Jim. I really appreciate the time, and we'll look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you so much. It was very nice talking to you. Have a nice day.
All right, so there's a chart of Voxtur Analytics. As you can see, it's been under a bit of pressure. The hold came off the $35 million placement at 70 cents back on, was it July 17th? Yes. And so we have a marketing program running for Voxtur Analytics that is just getting underway in partnership with Acuity Ads. And it is expected to bring some new interest to the company. Full disclosure, again, I'm a shareholder and I'm a participant in an option. All right, so you're probably familiar with all of the news surrounding the rollout of cannabis products for pain mitigation. And my next guest is the CEO of a company that has been in the pain mitigation and management business for quite some time. They're one of the largest providers of out-of-hospital pain management services in Canada. Here's Wayne Cockburn, president of Pathway Health Corp, trading on the TSX Venture under the symbol PHC. My next guest is Wayne Cockburn. He's the president of Pathway Health Corp, trades on the TSX Venture under the symbol PHC. Wayne, welcome.
Thanks very much, James. Really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and your listeners today.
Great to have you as well. Wayne, let's start with an overview. What is the business of Pathway Health Corp?
Well, Pathway Health is one of the largest providers of chronic pain services in Canada. We offer a wide range of interdisciplinary services to our patients, including some pretty leading edge treatments that are only available in a handful of clinics in Canada. We own the largest out-of-hospital pain clinic in Canada, which is located in Toronto. And we also operate the largest medical cannabis telehealth network in the country. Our company was created several years ago with a clear mission, and that's to make a difference for chronic pain sufferers who need more than what's available today, rather. So the statistics on chronic pain often surprise people, but 1 in 5 Canadians currently suffers from it. And thousands are dying each year from opioid addiction. So it's pretty clear that the traditional methods of treatment have really proven to be insufficient. And it's also very expensive. The direct and indirect costs associated with chronic pain are more than $50 billion each year, which is more than cancer, diabetes, and heart disease combined. And there's a real shortage of chronic pain doctors in Canada. And as a result, the wait list to see a specialist can range anywhere from 1 to 3 years, depending on what part of the country you're in. So over the past few years, we've established a comprehensive ecosystem of treatment modalities, if you will, where we provide personalized care to give our patients the relief that they need to get their lives back. Our expertise and experience allow us to tailor treatment plans to the specific needs of each patient. And today, we provide our pain care services through a growing network of clinics in 4 provinces. And I mentioned earlier that we also operate the largest medical cannabis telehealth network in the country.
Sure.
But we're also working very closely with some of the largest retail pharmacy companies in the country, where we deliver cannabis education programs to their pharmacists, and where we've built a platform for pharmacist referrals for chronic pain.
Okay. So you are basically pain management using cannabinoids.
Cannabinoids is just one service that we provide. So for example, in our Toronto-based clinic, we do everything except medical cannabis. I once saw a list of the services that we provide here, and it's somewhere between 40 and 50 different services.
Cannabis, and so when you say different modalities of pain management, does that mean sort of like you graduate through different therapies?
Each patient is different. Again, I mentioned that we tailor design specific programs for each patient, and you may have 2 patients present themselves with the same pain in the same location, and with one patient, one modality may work, and with the other patient, it may not. So it's in some cases it's a trial and error until they find something that actually works for the patient.
Interesting. So I see that you've also got, it mentions ketamine infusions on your website.
Yes. So again, ketamine, when we provide these ketamine infusions at our main clinic in Toronto, because it requires this is obviously something that you can't do through telemedicine. It requires a physician oversight, and a nurse will be on standby to they actually sit by the patient as they undergo the treatment, just to make sure that everything's okay. But we are looking to expand the ketamine services in some of our other clinics across Canada.
That's very interesting. So how many patients do you have now, and are they, it sounds like they must be almost an entirely recurring audience.
Yeah, unfortunately they are. We see in our Toronto-based clinics about 10,000 patients each year. On the medical cannabis side, again, which is virtual health, we have between 50 and 60,000 active patients at any one time. Collectively, since the beginning of the company, we've seen probably 300,000 patients.
Oh, wow. That's a lot. Okay.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So then you've, tell me about your financial picture. What's the business sort of generating in terms of cash flow, and is it profitable?
Well, on the income side, we've been aggressively rolling up the pain clinic industry over the past 3 years, and this is actually reflected in our revenue growth. So 3 years ago, we did about 600,000 in revenue, and last year we did about 12.5 million. And since going public about a month ago, we haven't made any changes to our approach at building the business. We're continuing to roll up the chronic pain business. We are not yet profitable, but we're very close to being profitable.
Wow, on substantial revenue too. Well, that's great. What is the most lucrative part of the business? What is the pain sort of treatment that most of your patients are gravitating towards?
We do some private medicine, and this is on some of the more the newer technologies, if you will. We get a lot of American citizens coming up to have some of these treatments, and the margins on those are fairly good. For OHIP covered, for government covered services, the margins tend to be fairly slim. Mm-hmm. And so it's on more of the, I want to use the word eclectic, but more of the advanced technological treatments. That's where the better margins typically occur.
Very interesting. What kind of competition is there out there? I mean, it sounds like you could be competing with every doctor and hospital and clinic in the country.
Well, surprisingly, that's just not the case, which is one of the reasons why the wait list can be anywhere from 1 to 3 years. The industry itself is actually quite fragmented. There's a lot of smaller places. In fact, if you walk down Main Street of any town or any city, you'll see a chiropractor, as an example, saying that they do pain management. That may in fact be the case, that they do treat patients with pain, whether it's acute or chronic. But in terms of actual sizable players, there's only a handful. You could probably count them on one hand in the country. And we're probably number 2 at this point.
Wow. Interesting. Okay, so then what's the next 6, 12, 18, 24 months look like in terms of growth for you? What's the strategy to grow the business?
Well, there's really 2 initiatives underway. The first is we're going to continue to bring on new patients through acquisition. As I said, we've gone from 600,000 to 12.5 million in 3 years. We're in discussions with a number of potential acquisition targets, so we're going to continue. The idea being that we now have fixed expenses primarily in the business, and that as you start to add on more revenue, they become accretive acquisitions. So that's one area. But probably the biggest area for us in terms of growth is our relationship with the pharmacy companies. We've just recently signed a couple of important agreements with 2 of the largest pharmacy companies in Canada. In June, we signed a collaboration agreement with PharmaChoice Canada, and this is regarding the implementation of our medical cannabis management system, or what we call our MCMS, in more than 900 independent pharmacies across Canada. And just earlier this month, we signed a similar agreement with Sobeys. The idea being is that there's essentially 3 levels of agreements that we're working on with the pharmacies. And I just take a couple of minutes to explain, because this really is where the growth potential occurs.
Okay. The
first area of the agreement is that we offer up an accredited training program for pharmacists. The Cannabis Act was passed back in 2018, where they deschedulized cannabis and made it a legal drug. They are currently, the government is currently reevaluating the Cannabis Act, and it's expected sometime probably later this year that additional changes are going to be made to the act, where they're going to be separating, to really oversimplify it, THC, which is the psychoactive component of cannabis rather,
yep,
and CBD, cannabidiol, into a separate, because right now CBD is governed exactly the same way. It's regulated exactly the same way as THC. Even in spite of the fact that it's non-psychoactive, but it does appear to have provide a lot of benefits to a lot of people in terms of a couple of examples: reduced anxiety, better sleep, and pain management. And so the belief is that they're going to be separating the 2 and then moving CBD more and treating it more like a natural health product. A cannabis health product is what they're going to be calling it. And that There's probably going to be still some control, some restrictions on how it's regulated, how it's sold. And from everything that we hear, it's likely to be through the pharmacies. The pharmacies have been lobbying very hard to become the sole source of CBD sales. And so we've been actually working on this for 2 years now. This is a change that we've been anticipating. And so we have developed this cannabis training course for pharmacists because, as it turns out, according to Stats Canada, 1 in 5 people over the age of 15 has used cannabis in the last 3 months, which means that 1 out of 5 people that show up at the back counter of the pharmacies is using cannabis. And right now, the pharmacists don't feel adequately trained to be able to talk to them about it. And given that it's an approved drug, the pharmacists rightfully believe that they should have that open dialogue with their patients, but they really don't have the training. So we've got an accredited course for that. So that's the first part. The second part is developing a I don't want to use the referral program, but that's essentially really what it is. The patient will go to the back counter and ask the pharmacist about medical cannabis. The pharmacist through our program will be trained on doing an initial assessment. It might take 5 minutes or so. And if it's deemed that that patient would be a good candidate for medical cannabis, they'll then be passed along to Pathway, where our physicians or nurse practitioners will get involved and we'll take over from there. So those are the 2 essential pieces of the agreements that we're signing now with the pharmacy companies. But it's the third piece, when you back to your original question, where we see the growth occurring, it's the third piece that we see as probably the greatest single area of growth for Pathway Health. And that's in terms of working with the pharmacy companies to help them develop not just a brand strategy for this, what is essentially a brand new consumer packaged goods category. The pharmacies are already dedicating shelf space for this, even though there's been no formal announcement.
Yep.
So we are the experts in medical cannabis in the country. We're the largest. And we're medically and scientifically based. And so that gives us the chops, if you will, to be able to work with the pharmacies, the credibility to work with them, to not only help them develop the brand strategy, but also to help them develop and maintain, if you will, the product line for the products that the pharmacies will sell to their patients. And if we're strategic on this and we're successful in this, that means that Pathway could receive revenue for every CBD product that's sold.
Wow.
And it's estimated that within the next couple of years, that the CBD market in Canada alone could be worth about $2.5 billion. So it's a very important initiative for us.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Wayne, that's a great introduction to the company. We're going to follow the story with great interest. I appreciate your time today. I look forward to having you back soon. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks very much, James. I appreciate it.
You bet. Bye for now. All right, so there's looking at a chart of Pathway Health Corp. Looks like it's been under a bit of a sell-off since July, and looks like that will probably, it looks like it might be in a bit of a reversal mode right here, looking down here at 28.5. But we'll see how that company goes. Now, let's talk about other news in the cannabis space. So, Field Trip Health, symbol FTRP. We have an interview we did a couple of weeks ago with the CEO. They have received conditional approval to list on NASDAQ under the symbol FTRP. That is likely going to have an uplifting effect on the stock, as most NASDAQ listings do. Cybin Inc. announced a conditional listing and approval for the NYSE-American market, also likely to have a uplifting effect on the share price, though, again, that's just my opinion. That's not a prediction. In other news, Jamaica has adopted protocols for cultivating and processing psilocybin. Jamaica never wanted to be far behind any new trend in the world of psychedelics. And Mydecine created its first capsule of MYCO-001B, a 25 milligram synthetic psilocybin pill. I hope you were following the news last week that Chuck Schumer is planning to make a priority out of getting marijuana legalization over the threshold in the upcoming sessions of Congress. It'll be interesting to see if what kind of uptake there is on that. I expect it to be fully resisted, just because United States government is far too puritanically hypocritical to ever get out of its own way when it comes to ameliorating the damage from a failed war on drugs. And probably the only people who would say it's not a failed war on drugs because our prisons are full are the operators of private prison corporate systems that are for-profit prisons. Just part and parcel of the deteriorating social fabric of America these days. Amazon is officially lobbying Congress to permit national delivery of cannabis products. Not likely to happen anytime soon. Also, it was recently announced you can now board a plane with up to 3 ounces of cannabis. Aw, isn't that nice? What else? Cannabis seed sales increased 68% in May to $313 million, and Democratic lawmakers are introducing a bill to legalize cannabis in Ohio. The marijuana industry scored $5 billion worth of legalization wins in 2021 via state legislators. I want to talk a bit now about the price of copper, trading at $4.54 a pound at this hour after touching a high of $4.80 back in March. Clearly, the transitory nature of inflation as it pertains to copper, which is the main ingredient in most electronics, is back. Transitory means it can come and it can go, and it's certainly coming back right now. There are a lot of indicators that the transitory nature of inflation is temporarily transitory, and it looks like it might be finding a home in the current economic situation. Certainly, the Delta variant is causing a lot of uncertainty. The Delta variant is interesting to me because the information out there is so contradictory. Canada, there was an article in the CBC suggesting that even with the Delta variant, the Pfizer vaccine was 88% effective. However, news out of Israel suggests that it is only 36% effective against the Delta variant, though it does seem to be keeping people out of hospitals who are infected despite being double vaccinated, which leads me to this thought. I mean, now we've got in Canada, 60% of people are double vaccinated. Canada is actually the most vaccinated country on earth right now. And so we've got this minority contingent of individuals who insist on not being vaccinated. It is among them that the coronavirus will be able to continue to mutate and evolve. And so the question for me is, to what extent should we extend the freedoms that we enjoy as double vaccinated individuals to those who are on some principle not getting vaccinated? I personally do believe that there is a responsibility socially to society to get vaccinated when there is a pandemic, especially when they are demonstrated not to have serious side effects or long-term implications, though I concur that that might be a little bit out there in terms of we haven't had them around that much. However, the virus is deadly. And so it's remarkable to me, especially among the Republicans who were all anti-vax, and now they're all jumping on the bandwagon because the majority of people who aren't vaccinated are Republican voters, and they suddenly realize that, oh, geez, if we keep advocating for non-vaccination, we're going to start losing our state elections as well as the federal election. And so they reversed course on that and in fine Republican style pretended that they've always been like that. So I'm not a Democrat or a liberal. I'm not a conservative or a Republican because I'm Canadian. However, I do believe that a balance of social needs to be brought to bear in any civilized country against competitive, and that's what we have here in Canada. Despite the would-be ambitions of a lot of Canadians who like to pretend they're Republican Donald Trump, screw everybody, screw left, screw socials, you know. But whatever, hey, dudes, you're in Canada. Fortunately, we have a strong social backbone to our capitalist society. Capitalism won't survive without a social element, nor will socialism survive without capitalism. And that's the reality that underscores Darwinism, evolution of survival of the fittest through natural selection. And certainly, The Republicans have demonstrated that by advocating for not getting a vaccine, and Darwinism is imposing its inevitable self by ensuring survival of the fittest. So, by all means, don't get vaccinated if you don't want to. Just be assured that Darwinism will out-Trump creationism every single time. Anyways, enough about that. Maybe you agree, maybe you don't. Shoot me an email, jwest@midasletter.com. You can tell me exactly what you think about me and my opinions. I don't mind. What else we got today? So, yeah, the price of copper, $4.54. A copper company that I'm invested in somewhat, not heavily, but there's over 100 grand in there, is U.S. Copper. This company has over 2 billion pounds of copper and 43,101 in the state of California, close to the border with Nevada. And they announced today that they were shutting down drilling because of the Dixie Fire, which is now the largest active fire in California. The stock swooned to, I think I picked up another 100,000 shares at 14 cents. And personally, I just want to draw your attention to this company because if the price of copper keeps going up, and fires always go out eventually, they run out of fuel, and this company is drilling right now, already has 2 to 4 billion pounds of copper with over 1 million ounces of gold. Anyways, to me, this is the best copper junior opportunity. That's why I'm invested in it. I also have an option on 200,000 shares from marketing programs we did for them 2 years ago. So yeah, I'm conflicted. Consider this advertising. There you have it. That's my disclosure. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Make sure you never miss a show by subscribing to our YouTube channel and clicking on the little notifications bell. If you're interested in getting monthly actionable investment ideas in the cannabis space to your inbox, subscribe to the newsletter at MydasLetter.com. Okay, so questions from the audience. Shaden Augustus wants to know if I can give you a quick summary on what is an ETF, what is an exchange-traded fund. Now, there is no simple answer to that because there are so many different flavors of ETF, but essentially, an ETF is a way to participate in an asset class without owning the underlying asset. So, for example, a gold ETF will buy gold and hold gold according to the supply and demand of gold as indicated in the price of gold itself. So you can buy an ETF in gold that actually owns physical gold, though those are very rare. You can buy an ETF in gold that buys and sells futures contracts in gold, which means it doesn't actually hold any gold whatsoever. In fact, most gold ETFs don't own any actual gold. You can buy an ETF that invests in mining companies that are producing gold or exploring for gold, though again, that ETF does not in fact own any gold. You can buy an ETF, for example, there is the Horizons Cannabis ETF, which is a basket of cannabis companies that they hold. And so in a basket of cannabis companies, the ETF price will generally reflect trends without capturing all of the upside and without losing significantly in the event of a downdraft, of a correction. So it's a passive investment generally. You buy it and sell it like a stock. You can get in this morning and get out in the afternoon. And they generally follow the price trends within certain sectors. Now, the thing about ETFs is investing in an ETF can have unintended consequences on your portfolio. For example, if you invest in a cannabis ETF, but you also hold cannabis stocks, the cannabis ETF can be working against you because a lot of them make revenue, significant revenue, by lending out their positions for shorters, for short strategists. So for a short to sell stock short, they have to own some of it, and they will borrow it from ETFs. And the ETFs are willing lenders because they want to, it improves the performance of their ETF for their unit investors. So think about that while you're investing in an ETF and holding individual names in any sector. You could be working against yourself and neutralizing the wins in the whole portfolio. So that's something to think about. There's a whole bunch of weaknesses in ETFs that are generally under the radar. The fees associated with ETFs need to be carefully considered. I mean, they can be more expensive than buying and selling stocks. But basically, an ETF is a way to participate in a sector without owning the actual underlying asset in the sector. Hope that helps, Shaden. Now, Herman Hartner wants to know, he's looking for some good stocks, some good cannabis stocks that will directly benefit from the Mexico legalization that are about $1 or under in share price. Are there any I'm looking into that could put in your that I would put in my portfolio? Herman, I don't have any cannabis stocks in my portfolio anymore. And the reason for that is that I consider the cannabis sector fully valued in the United States presently, and I think there's greener pastures to be appreciated in other sectors right now. So that being said, I don't actually follow any cannabis companies in Mexico. The only one I know of that's active in Mexico is Chiron Health. Used to be was active. Actually had Vicente Fox, a former president of Mexico, on their board of directors. So they are under $1. Fits that criteria. And will they benefit from the uplift in the cannabis sector in Mexico? I believe they would. There you have it. Mr. Johnny wants to know, which billionaire will win the space race? Interesting question. Well, let's see. Richard Branson's been there, done that. Of course, Jeff Bezos just did that last week, though technically neither one of them were in space. They flew to the edge of the atmosphere and arguably touched space. So which billionaire will win the space race? I think in that regard, Elon Musk has already firmly won the space race because he's got satellites in space that are enveloping the world in a communication system. He's the first to develop reusable rockets that are delivering satellites into space. And meanwhile, Jeff and Richard would best be classified as the industry in which they're pursuing tourists. So I think the answer to that is easily Elon Musk. Anyways, there's our show for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. Actually, wait a sec. This is the week of July 26th, which means I'm doing a second show this week. Can it be so? Yes, it's true. We're going to be back on Friday with some more guests and some more conversation about asset classes we care about. Anyways, I appreciate your patronage. Thanks for watching, everybody. Don't forget to write me if you have any questions or want me to talk about anything. jwest@MydasLetter.com. Hope you all have a great week.